Well, it's time now for the number of the day, and I can tell you it's a very controversial one. Here it is. 2.4 million rand. 2.4 million rand, that's the number of the day. A furore has erupted over life insurer Momentum refusing to pay this amount in a claim for a family who died after being shot. Nathan Ganas was killed during a hijacking in the driveway of his home in March in Durban last year. Although he died from gunshot wounds, the insurance company has rejected his policy claim after it says it discovered he had elevated blood sugar levels. The company says Ganes failed to disclose material details of his health at the start of that insurance policy in 2014. Companies, of course, use these details to decide whether or not to offer cover to individuals and, importantly, the amount of premiums they will pay. Momentum has suggested he must have known about his condition and chose not to disclose it. Nathan's widow, Denise Ganas, maintains that she was not aware of his condition and was not on any chronic medication at the time. She's now taking the matter to court. The decision to reject the claim has since drawn a public outcry, with many questioning why the company has made this decision. Of course, the company, for its part, is sticking to its guns.
Earlier, Nzinga and Unta caught up with the CEO of Momentum, Johann Roux, and Nceba Sihlali, who is the Assistant Ombudsman. Let's listen to that earlier interview.
There were non-disclosure regarding certain blood sugar levels. It was at such a material level that Momentum would not have actually issued the case at the time. And that's actually where the, I could say, a legal question arises, but I think you're spot on. Let's speak about the ethical and other considerations. We also need to take account fairness across all our clients. Now, clearly, insurance contract is an issue of good faith. When you take out a contract, everybody discloses truthfully up front, which allows the insurance company to determine the right premium and to determine whether or not a contract would have been issued in the first case. If that's not so, obviously, if clients do not disclose properly or do not pay appropriate premiums, you can understand it will have a cost impact on the remaining clients in the book. So we almost had to balance fairness across all our clients in this portfolio, and that's what made this decision so tremendously difficult for us. In the end, that's how we came to the conclusion that we should not pay the claim.
So my issue was about the asking for the 50,000 rand back that had been paid.
Let me respond to that. It's a good question. What is the 50,000 rand? First and foremost, what we do under our death benefits in Momentum, we actually pay 50,000 rand within 24 hours to the deceased family to obviously allow them to settle affairs and so on. It's not a funeral benefit per se, it's part and parcel of the main benefit. If the contract is null and void, obviously the 50,000 rand should not have been paid also. However, we reflected on this and decided that, we will, in the act of good faith, not recover the 50,000 rand from the deceased family. Also, because we've cancelled the contract, we return all the premiums to the deceased estate also.
Let's go back to Cape Town. I know you said the case is sub judice, but you can also give us an insight. The Ombudsman spoke about the Didicot principle and asked Momentum to consider it. Talk to us about what that is and why perhaps you did that.
Okay, thank you very much. The Didicot principle is basically a reconstruction of the policy. For instance, if the insurer, if the non-disclosed information was disclosed, and then if the insurer would have, issued the policy on different terms, then what we do, we then request the insurer to consider the Didicot principle so that they can maybe issue that policy with an exclusion or a loading of premiums. That's it.
Yes, so I think to connect with that, in this case, the contract would not have been issued in the first case. Hence, we couldn't apply that principle, but the argument is correct. When a client, for example, did not disclose properly, and as such, the premium would have been different, as an example. Okay. Typically, at claim stage, there could be a pro rata adjustment to the claim amount.
All right, let's come back to this issue of sugar levels.
Yes.
That's something, he wasn't, in my understanding, diagnosed as diabetic, one. So sugar levels can fluctuate, so they can go up, or they can go down and be manageable to a point where they're not a danger zone. That's the first thing. The second thing is, I know they're not connected because there's a confusion around that. Yes. But why were you checking this person's blood sugar levels after the contract? And is it not a case on Momentum who is dealing with this to say, if someone raises an issue, or if we believe that there may be something else, we need to do more tests, and the standard HIV test that you do when you're issuing out.
I think you made a few comments. The first to understand is at any claim stage, we will verify the information that was disclosed when the policy was taken out.
Okay.
I mean, that's important. So it's in that context that the blood sugar conversation actually came about. In fact, and I understand I can't share confidential medical information regarding this client, but there were a number of assessments prior to taking out the policy where the client indicated raised blood sugar levels at an extreme level, which would allow us not to issue the contract. I think, yes, understand blood sugar levels, it's merely an indicator of potentially diabetes. Our normal practice then would be to actually send the client for further medical assessments. Some of those could run over a period of months, actually to determine whether the client's diabetes is actually under control. We never had the opportunity to do that because based on what we received from the application form, there was no reason to actually ask for further medical information.
Let's go back to Nceba as we're about to wrap up. Talk to us about this review process. How long does it take, especially if someone is not happy with the decision that the Ombudsman has taken? In this instance, you agreed with Momentum and you said they were right not to pay out.
That's correct. The appeal, when the complainant has lodged an appeal, the judge will look at the matter and assess whether there's any merit to that application. If there is merit, then an independent judge will be appointed, and then the case will be referred to that judge, and he will consider the merits and then make a decision.
Okay, there's been such a backlash about this case, people saying that you're a company that doesn't care about people, you're a company that is cruel. I heard a talk radio show interviewing you this morning and kind of you got quite vitriolic responses. Is this not going to make you change your mind? Because we saw this with Old Mutual with a similar case, and then they said they're going to actually pay out because it makes them look so bad and so uncaring and so unfeeling that that's just the right thing to do sometimes as a company that you need to do.
I think it's probably fair to say that we are disappointed at the feedback. I can certainly speak to the claims intent of Momentum. I can honestly say that. I think the mutual matter was slightly different. I think they did further investigations, what I understand, and from that actually realized they made a mistake. I think this case is a little bit different from that. I think one learning here definitely is the fact that consumers may misunderstand the reality that an insurance contract is a contract where you actually act in good faith. And disclosure at point of sale, in other words, when you actually take out the insurance policy, is so important that everybody is truthful and honest about their conditions. Then we wouldn't be here today.
Now to economic